is posted. If a change needs to be made after an invoice is posted, a credit or debit note can be posted against it to make any necessary corrections. When entering a credit note, you can select whether to return the merchandise back to stock so the item can be sold to another customer, identify the item as damaged, indicating to write it off, or simply perform a price adjustment where only the price of the item is changed, so no changes are made to the quantity of the item in inventory.
The credit debit note entry icon is used to enter and post adjustments that need to be made against invoice documents after they have been posted. The credit debit note entry window is practically identical to the other data entry windows, so all those fields that are different are highlighted here. To create a new credit or debit note, leave the word new in this field. To review an existing credit or debit note, enter or select the previously posted transaction. When entering new transactions, select the transaction type, again, either credit note or debit note. Credit notes are used to credit the customer because of a possible item return or to reduce the price of the item because a discount was not taken. Debit notes are used to amend an existing invoice rather than create a separate invoice. This may occur if the customer wanted more items than originally ordered, and the change is to be referenced against the previously posted invoice. For credit notes, enter or select the customer number, and then enter or select the invoice number to be adjusted. Let's say you need to make a correction to an earlier invoice because one of the items arrived broken that your customer, Ronald Black in this example, had ordered. Possibly Mr. Black decided not to get the item replaced at this time and instead have his account credited. To do this, select the invoice in question. By linking the credit note to the invoice, Accpac merges the documents so they are both visible when performing inquiries. If a credit note is entered without referencing an invoice, the credit note appears separately, with no relation to the original invoice, although it could be joined with another document later with an accounts receivable, where the entry treats them as separate. Click the drill icon here to observe the details of the original invoice. Next, enter the adjustment. If an existing invoice is selected, the detail names originating on that invoice appear. The fluorescent desk lamp is the item in question, so select the credit return type. The item can be returned to inventory, so the item returns to the warehouse where it can be sold to someone else. Return as damaged, where the item is written off, or simply entered as a price adjustment. When returned items increase the quantity in inventory, damaged items do not, so they can't be sold to someone else. A price adjustment is used to enter a reduction of the item price without affecting the quantity. Because Ronald is claiming the item is broken, select the Damaged Items option. Initially ordered 5, so indicate he is returning 1. The quantity entered here is the quantity that is being returned, not the quantity being retained. Moving to the right, the price field defaults to the price from the invoice. In this case that we have been given in the original invoice are also visible. This completes the adjustment. However, before clicking the Post button, it's best to observe the other pages to make sure they are accurate, and then visit the Totals page to review the return amount. If the totals appear correct, click the Post button to post the credit note, and then the system prompts for it to be printed. Be advised that if the original invoice to be credited is no longer in the entry system because it has been cleared, the invoice number must be manually entered, as well as the item information being credited, rather than it being available for selection. Debit notes are handled the same way as credit notes. First, determine if an existing debit note is to be recalled for review, or if a new debit note should be generated. Let's create a new one from the existing previously posted invoice for Mr. Black. Select the debit note type, and then enter or select the invoice number to be recalled, assuming it's still in the system. If the original invoice to be debited has been cleared, it It cannot be recalled because the debit note is independent and not linked with any specific invoice. If the invoice is still in the system, Accpac displays the detail lines that existed on the invoice in the lower section of the window. Similar to credit notes, debit notes provide the following options: items removed from inventory, damaged items, or price adjustment. Items removed from inventory is probably the most common choice because, in a sense, this is just like posting a shipment, but the shipment is attached to this invoice as a debit note rather than as a separate, independent document. The second most common choice is to enter a price adjustment. Possibly the quantity is correct, but the real discount price was factored into the price, of which a price increase needs to be entered. The damaged items option is not normally used when entering debit notes. However, a debit note will need to be entered at the same time an item needs to be returned as being damaged. The process can then be performed in one step rather than having to post both a credit and debit note separately. In this example, any items being returned as damaged that were entered on a debit note need to be entered as a negative quantity. Let's say your customer, Ronald Black, wants to increase the quantity of fluorescent desk lamps, but you already posted the original invoice. They want the increase to be referenced on the original invoice because of a possible price break. You can enter a debit note or retain the same invoice number and simply increase the quantity. For this type of document, select items removed from inventory and enter the quantity increase that he wants. Option may accept the same price as earlier or not, and then post the debit note. Accpac then prompts you to print the debit note.
Now, let's take a look at the copy orders function.